In October of 1952, a dance show premiered on a local Philadelphia television station, hosted by radio personality Bob Horn. It had a decent local audience, and also featured a DJ, a young man with the name of Dick Clark. Little did anyone know the scope of influence this little show called Bandstand would carry over the next 37 years in America. Everything changed when Dick Clark was asked to take over hosting duties in July of 1956. Over the next year, Clark launched a campaign to convince the parent company ABC that his show had national appeal and would solve two of ABC's problems. One, it was both an easy and cheap way to attract the teen demographic, and two, it would boost ABC's third-place ratings. Clark believed that teenagers were consumers and that he could use the music they liked as a marketing tool. At first, ABC execs laughed at the idea, asking, "Who wants to watch kids in Philly dance?" His pitch eventually worked, though, and Clark's theory was proven true. Actually, a lot of people wanted to watch kids in Philly dance. On August 5th, 1957, the renamed American Bandstand premiered with its national debut. It aired Monday through Friday and ran for 90 minutes in the coveted afternoon time slot. It was an immediate success, with an estimated audience of 20 million viewers. The show featured young people, teenagers, dancing to the popular music of the day. The sets were simple: bleachers, reminiscent of a high school gym, and a big open space for the kids to dance. There was a strict dress code for the dancers. The boys wore suits, sport coats and ties, or sweaters. The girls wore dresses or skirts with blouses. Clark thought his clean-cut dancers would help to boost the perception of both rock and roll and the teenagers of the day. His tactics worked, and they did not just work, they transformed the landscape of music and teenage culture. American Bandstand became a national sensation, and so did Dick Clark, affectionately called America's oldest teenager. And the show helped artists, too. An appearance on Bandstand increased record sales and launched careers. An endorsement from Dick Clark and dancing teenagers made your song and you a hit. For the rest of the 1950s, American Bandstand featured many new artists, like newcomers Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel, and Jerry Lee Lewis. It was Buddy Holly's last television appearance in 1958, just months before his tragic plane crash later that year. Artists did not perform live. They always lip-sang to their records. Clark believed the audience wanted to dance to the exact song they were familiar with, and not a different version that a live performance would bring. Daily viewership was over 8 million by February of 1958, catapulting American Bandstand to ABC's top-rated TV show. By the end of the 1950s, it was the most popular daytime show on any network. Teens rushed home from school to hear the latest music, see how they danced, and to check out what they wore. One popular segment on the show was Rate a Record. Teenage studio guests would evaluate a record on a scale of 35 to 98. This is where the popular phrase, "It's got a good beat and you can dance to it," originated. Clark and his show always encouraged and inspired his audience to dance. But the first dance craze didn't happen until August 1960. Scheduled to perform their hit song, The Twist, that night, guests Hank Ballard and the Midnighters were a no-show. Clark, ever the showman, convinced his friend Chubby Checker to go to the studio and record a similar version of the song. He did, in a half hour. He was the guest that night, demonstrating the dance on the show, and he got the credit for the instant hit and the dance craze that would dominate American culture for the next couple of years. Other guests in the 1960s made their debut too. In 1960 alone, there were a slew of new artists singing for the first time on TV. Ike and Tina Turner, Gary U.S. Bonds, Smokey Robinson, and the Miracles. Gladys Knight and the Pips made their debut in '61, ushering in the doo-wop movement in the U.S. Aretha Franklin sang in 1962, and a 12-year-old Stevie Wonder sang in 1963. American Bandstand aired 5 days a week in live national broadcast until 1963. Then, the show moved to an LA studio and had a 24-year run as a taped weekly program, with Dick Clark still at the helm. They broadcast in color for the first time in 1967. In 1970, the Jackson 5 made their debut with ABC and performed I Want You Back, along with Michael Jackson's first TV interview. He'd return the next year to perform solo for the first time. The show continued on, evolving with the times with its music, fashion, and dance until 1989. In its final years, Dick Clark passed the torch as host and worked as executive producer only. Dick Clark said music is the soundtrack of your life, and for many of us, American Bandstand was the soundtrack for our formative years. For over 30 years, it shaped and reshaped the landscape of music in America, beginning with the rise of rock and roll and continuing on through Motown, British rock, disco, and the 1980s. Clark's influence on American culture, its music, its teenagers, and its TV is profound. Thanks for watching Memory Mountain. If you enjoyed this video, please click to subscribe to our channel and hit that thumbs up button. Be sure to tap the notification bell so you'll be one of the first to know when we post our next story looking back over the landscape of Americana.